say anything to get in, to like to be nice, to make sure that like if when they are in a position where they need something, but when they have power, they will not take into consideration anyone else. They will only use their power to expand.
That's what's going on in Israel.
Yeah.
That's what's happening over
Not
and over.
first of all, not everybody knows what you are talking about.
Yeah.
We have to know a little.
But you know what? I think it is changing. I have a son-in-law who's brought up already, okay? He's modern Orthodox. He has sisters who do nothing. He has a sister who just moved in with her boyfriend, and the parents accept him. The rabbi told them it's more important for you to accept your child than not.
That's good.
And that you wouldn't have expected a generation ago.
You're right. The thing is, well, we're not talking about individuals.
You're talking about the movement.
It's really important to understand that. We're not talking about individuals. We know individual Haredim who are like kind, open-hearted, and this is just the way they practice their community. We're talking about the political leadership,
Got it.
the rabbis, the ones who have control, because they're the only ones that matter when it comes to these kind of things, right? So yeah, I know Haredim, I know Hasidim who are very pleasant, open, like, and curious. They don't make a distinction in terms of thinking that you're less than or anything like that. But when it comes to these kind of things, it's not about them, sadly. It's about the rabbis who have power and will use it to expand their power. I'll share one thing to open it that really, I think, exemplifies that. It's just a second.
Not everybody can take whatever they want. I mean,
Yeah.
some people it's very hard for them. Oh, no, enjoy. I was looking.
Already?
But it's still woman welcome. It's the law.
Yeah, they are. Except for?
Yes.
essentially a replication of how they participated in Hungary in the mid-19th century,
Well, they could get it.
which is, no, it's really illustrated that in Hungary, in like the 1850s, 1860s, in their parliament, that there were Jewish parties. And the Haredi party that was headed by, I don't remember, the name is escaping me right now, but they used their power against other Jews in alignment with non-Jews to get what they wanted, which is exactly what we see them doing and having done for decades in Israel since the 70s, when basically the situation today was created by, or helped to be created by, I can't put it only on him, but Prime Minister Menachem Begin, right, who, and then the Labor Party did the same thing, which is, we'd rather pay off the Haredim, with more money for yeshivot and more exemptions and all those kinds of things, than have to reach a consensus with them. Which is also a bad thing. Like, it's ridiculous that for decades, Labor and Likud would rather fight it out and then pay off the Haredim to be in the coalition, rather than say, you know what, let's fix this for the good of the country. And it really is, it's a shame that it was created by Israel's own political leadership.
And Ben-Gurion also, he gave them the permission not to enlist in the army.
Well, and that's actually a really important thing to understand. Is he did, but he gave 400 yeshiva students. It was not a huge number until the 70s.
Wow.
So, yeah, I only learned this listening to Haviv Rettig Gur. So Haviv Rettig Gur is a prolific scholar and commentator on Israel and on Judaism, who is the son of one of the former chief rabbis of Israel. So he knows what he's talking about. And he said that he was teaching that until through the 73 war, the birth rate of Haredim and the birth rate of the normal of regular Israelis was not that different. And the number of exemptions was not high. Haredim served in the military. Not maybe to the same percentages, but they served. The difference happened in the 70s when their political leadership got all of this power. And that is what has been the problem. So what I was going to also say, just to transition and turn it over to Laura and to your questions for her, is that a couple weeks ago, I met a really interesting guy who I spoke about 2 weeks ago, or 2 Shabbatot ago, named Ro'i Azizi, who is from Hod HaSharon. We happened to have paths that crossed because he was at Ramah, Wisconsin, after he got out of the army. And like many Israelis who grew up primarily secular, they are exposed to a Jewish world they never knew was possible. And he was turned on by it, but also by the experiential education model that is Ramah. So he went back to Israel, he got involved with experiential education, teaching, and doing different things. Eventually wound his way to Hebrew U and was working in Jerusalem when he was called up on Miluim. After October 7th, he's done some things that have gotten notice on social media, and but what happened was after he left his first round of service as a reservist, packed up his apartment. He moved to Sderot in like February of 24. People from Sderot weren't moving back to Sderot yet, and he moved there. And then he relocated to a kibbutz, and he wrote a post about it. He's helped over 100 Israelis who are in their 20s, maybe early 30s, move to this area to help resettle in different communities and be a strength, and he's given them support. Why I'm mentioning it right now is because where is his support coming from? Not the government. The government is not even supporting the Israelis who were there fully. They're giving hundreds of millions of shekels to yeshivot so that they can remain in power. He's getting it from American Jews, from JNF, is now going to be supported. And this is so when we're talking about the issues of Israel, right, it's like pervasive and huge. And it's not just about, can we have a bar mitzvah at the wall? That is important. To us, it should be important. But it's not just about that. It's about such a bigger thing. So I turn it over to Laura and to your questions.
Am I done? Answer any questions?
Andy, you want to give it a shot?
So I've been reading all of the slates, and many of the slates advocate for a pluralistic, democratic society. Not all the slates, but many. How do you plan on, or are there any plans on working together with these other parties to ensure a democratic country, or do you work separately, independently, or do you feel that there's enough commonality between some of these progressive, more progressive states where you feel that you can work together and get the most bang for the buck?
That's such a great question. I'm really glad you asked that. So yes, so the World Zionist Congress is a parliament. It's like a parliament who vote for the slate, not the individual. And all of those kind of smaller, I would say non-orthodox, liberally minded kind of democratic pluralistic groups, they all vote as part of a coalition. So the coalition kind of in the World Zionist Congress is essentially really just kind of the Orthodox Haredi parties and the ZOA slate, and then kind of everybody else. And there's times that we vote together because as MERCAZ, we're the centrist group. But kind of all the other groups that share our values, that share our mission, we vote together. And so essentially, we talk about when we go out like this and pitch voters, we're obviously trying to pitch MERCAZ, that there's kind of a saying we have of, I can't get you to vote MERCAZ. I hope I can get you to vote ARTSA, which is the Reform Slate, or one of the other groups that share our mission and share our values. When people ask me, why should I vote MERCAZ? I'm looking at this other slate. It's a little bit more, aligned with my values. MERCAZ is it, but this one just seems a little bit more on the spot. And what I say to them is, a lot of slates, as you mentioned, they share our values, they share our vision. MERCAZ is the only slate that represents the conservative Masorti movement, and the only slate that can bring back those resources to the conservative institutions in Israel and to our conservative institutions here. So it's kind of the key difference between our slate and the others is that representation, that we vote together and vote as a bloc and work together very, very closely when we get to the Congress.
bring back the kibbutzim, that we lost and all of that. So that, I guess that's why it does make a lot of sense to me that we do have to do this now.
Yeah, it's incredibly important. And right, and the way to have a say is to have more seats and to have more influence. If we have more of our seats on the table of the reform and other movements, more seats on the table means more power and control to make sure, that we're putting the money where we want to see it, we're giving it to people who need it, and that we're rebuilding in a way that is
told Evan, the Chatan, I said, if you could get people at your wedding to vote, it would take 5 minutes,
That's voting.
it would be huge, right? Every time we have the opportunity, carrying that QR code with us and saying, we need to vote. And I think that the pluralistic nature of our sense of Judaism is really important to stress, that of all the slates that might be good to everyone, the Masorti slate would do that. Like, we're not exclusive. We would not then, if we were the largest one, we're not going to then use that to deny Orthodox organizations or Reform or Green or whatever their proper place. And the challenge is that there are these others that would, right? And that's why it's so important.
I think a lot of us that are sitting here, I said to myself when I was listening to you that my kids will do it if I say to them, sit down right now and do it. If I tell them on the phone to do it, I'm not sure they're going to do it. But we're going to all be fortunate enough to have our families around for Passover. Or even if we're somewhere else. I mean, you can get into a Passover Seder and have 50 votes right then and there
Oh,
if you just mention it. That's what I'm going to get mine.
yeah, no.
Yeah, me too.
Linda?
Do the Masorti organizations in diaspora send live delegates to the World Zionist Organization, or is it all done digitally these days? I don't understand it.
Yes, so the Congress itself, so the number of seats we get, and you go online after Shabbat, you can look and there's a list of who will be given those seats. We have each slate has a platform and it has the list of delegates that will represent.
But they are Americans.
Yeah, so we are MERCAZ USA, there is MERCAZ Canada, there's MERCAZ Mexico, so other countries will have
Okay.
their elections as well. But yes, so there is, every 5 years they meet, it'll be in October this year. They go to the Congress, they go to Jerusalem and vote for some.
And if we get enough votes, my future son-in-law will be one of the delegates. Because as a JTS student who's going to be in Israel next year, in any event, they put him on the slate.
That's motivating.
Hey,
We have to do it. We have to do
There you
it.
go.
Yeah,
I have to, be fun.
yeah, I did.
Can you clarify then, so this is like how often are the elections?
Once every 5 years.
It's just five? okay.
Yes.
And that was what, okay.
Yeah.
That's also why we don't necessarily hear about it.
Right.
It's not regular enough to be like, yeah, of course.
Right.
It catches me by surprise all the time. Yeah. Andy?
So now this is a vote of, Diana Butcher's, with the amount of money we're talking about $1 billion, it's a sizable shift. This election, with more votes going to the non-party. Do you foresee the government stepping in at all to make an impact as far as how these funds are spent?
So no, they don't have the authority. This is, as I was talking to somebody else, kind of the example I can give is like, it's almost as if we are voting for who maintains like the ACLU, the NAACP, kind of the biggest, most influential nonprofits here in the U.S. and the influence they have in the government. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the 4 biggest nonprofits in Jewish world in the diaspora. So yes, I mean, the alignment of far-right extremists around the world with very far-right in Israel, that is kind of the backward, what's happening in those rooms, in the back rooms and what they're trying to plot.
principles. And some of those principles are not agreeable to them.
I see. That's why I was wondering. Thank you.
So I can't imagine that they would.
Yeah, that hasn't been a problem before. Yeah. That was a J Street does have a slate, so there is others as well that are involved. But generally I'd say this is what you do if you support Israel, you vote, or you want to have a vision of Israel. If you try to destroy Israel, don't want to exist, this isn't for you.
Because they show up at the Salute to Israel parade, and they're very negative, so I was wondering. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, I love the different ideas I've heard about how to get people that we know to register or to vote, like at, before the Seder, or when we have, if we have a simcha, or if we have, an opportunity of people getting together, that just have that QR code, and we can help people. And I was saying at the table that we should have at the Modi concert next week. Just next week? It's a week from Wednesday, right? It's a week from Wednesday. That we should have Modi hold, we should all have the QR code, and he should get us all to do it as well. Like every time we get people together, we really should be pushing and pushing and pushing.
You should really give out the QR code when people check in. They get the program and the QR code.
Yeah.
So I just want to clarify that what we're really voting for is how not-for-profit, very large not-for-profits in the Jewish world are going to fund certain programs within Israel. So you're not changing anything that's happening with the Israeli government, but you're saying, oh, you need money for that? Here's the money. Or, or we're not giving you that.
But it's money for here too.
Yeah,
That money comes here.
I understood it's like sisterhood,
Yeah.
get a
Yes.
grant,
Yeah,
and
that money
you get.
comes
Right, okay, that's a good point. But I do think that what's important here is since people have to pay to vote, they have to be motivated to understand how it affects them. So when you do discuss with your family, you have to explain why it's important, not just, oh, could you vote?
Yeah, for sure. And here's another example of a place where the line between government and JNF or these funds is fuzzy, right? So the conservative movement, we support a place called Nebuchana, which I spoke about in December when I got back from the Rabbinical Assembly Convention. And Nebuchana is a home for children who've been removed from their birth homes because of neglect or abuse. And they can live collectively. They themselves are not Masorti. Like the kids aren't necessarily like conservative aligned. But this is the only home of its kind because it's either one of two other options in that sphere. It's either secular, where there is just no Jewish tradition taught. There's no bringing up for a bar mitzvah. There's no celebrating of holidays in any kind of meaningful way. Or it's dati. It's coercively orthodox, and the kids have no choice but to be separated by gender and to be observing it in that way. This is one home, one institution where there's no coercion, it's by invitation, but there's a rabbi and they have a chance to have like the spirit and the values and the ethos of the tradition taught to them and part of their culture growing up.
This is in the United States?
No, this is in Jerusalem, this is in Israel.
I was going to say, because the family book has a lot to say about where children are placed.
So this is Nebuchana in Israel, and it's one of these series of different homes where kids can go when they've been removed from a home because of abuse or neglect, right? The vast majority of it is either going to be very, I don't say very, but like observant and Jewish in a very black and white Haredi perspective, or secular Israeli.
Is there no
This is the only one in between.
Is there no parallel between like
all I know, right, is that I know that there is definitely like a court system that does these things.
So if that's an option, that's cool.
But what I'm saying is that this is the only option where that's a possibility, right? And that's funded not by as much by the government, but it's also funded by, yeah, because they fund the other things. So that's one of the ways in which this election has direct impact on Israelis in Israel, but it also, yeah, like we see here, you'll see outreach programs, right, that are free trip to Israel or engagement for young women, and
What
it's,
about Jaffa?
well,
Is Jaffa?
coming from but these are some of them coming from like Orthodox, what are called Kibbutz organizations, right? And sounds all, and it is all, it's nice, it's like, it's a trip to Israel, it's stressing some good things. But it's done by by an Orthodox Rebbitzin, usually, it's done with a certain perspective, and, you know, it would be amazing if we were, why can't we be doing that as well? And bringing people in the same way, but with a more pluralistic, open perspective, right? So, these are the things that are possible when we show up and we vote.
But also the what's in it for me, if you want to go from a selfish perspective, a lot of money comes here. And it helps support the education that we want our kids to have, and to retain pluralistic education here. And you look at the organizations that are being supported right here. Vermont, you send your kids to Camp Vermont. Well, part of the money, if we do this, will be coming from here. If you want to have a program at the temple for youth education, this is where the money comes from. This is where the grants come from. If it's not there, you don't get the money, you can't have the programs.
Yeah, if your kids or you've had a good experience with the Shinshin or the Shaliach, then it's about this. If your kids have had a good experience with an Israeli camp, it's about this. This is the thing that makes it happen.
So you'll be very pleased to know that two things just happened, which is very, very nice. Harvard on the left has taken your speech and she's translating it into Farsi to give it out to the community. And Roya just asked me, which we will be doing, to take your words and to send it out to the community just with your speech, and she will forward it to everybody within her community as well. So you spent a good shot.
Yeah, that's very productive.
Any questions to wrap up? I think we know our mission.
Thank you. Thank you, Jerry.
And thank you for
Thank you for having me.
taking the work on and for leaving your family for Shabbat to come here and light the fire under our.
I did invite her 6-year-old, but she said you would be too distracted.
I took him to one, and it was not pleasant for anyone.
What was enough? That was enough?
Yeah. He's throwing things around and distracting, but they watch the live stream, so.
Okay.
Wonderful. Shabbat shalom.
Thank you.
everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. very creative, what can I say?
I know several other,
Do you?
other than the wine.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
and
I,
I-
yeah, they use it. Yeah, they use it.
Although I imagine that everything is more expensive now.
Most of it, yes, for sure. And they moved a couple of apartments like 3 times, Second Avenue here, then moved over here, then they
They're all right
moved
there,
over.
yeah.
We're literally walking with suitcases
Every
across
time
the
they're-
street, part of the movers and part of us.
Every time the lease is up, they try to increase it significantly.
Well, space,
So they-
yeah, fun, yeah.
Yeah,
come around to check